After shooting with the Sony 24mm G Master f1.4, I could definitely see why it's a favorite in people's lens kits. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, I'm Mike, nurse, photographer, and videographer. I'll be approaching this review as a hobbyist. I've owned this 24mm f1.4 G Master by Sony for about less than a month. Anything that goes on in this review, it's my own opinions and my own thoughts. Nobody has any kind of sponsorship hand in this to alter this video. Okay, let's begin, shall we? The 24mm is considered an ultra-wide angle lens. The only reason why I thought you would use a 24mm lens or even a ultra-wide lens is just for landscapes. But that's not exactly the whole truth. Based on most people's experience, the wider your field of view is, the more distorted a person's face is. Although there is that shortcoming of having distortion, that doesn't mean that the lens doesn't take great images. Yes, a 24mm can shoot wide and take a lot of the environment. Your own phone, most phones, like this iPhone, it shoots in 24mm. The Sony 24mm f1.4 G Master, it's a top-of-the-line lens. Like, G Master is the lens, top-of-the-line lens that you could ever own from them. It's great for its travel, for its size and weight. It's sharp, it's got good autofocus, it's got all those extra features as far as like having an aperture ring on the bottom that's declickable and clickable. So you can decide whether or not you just want to have a nice, smooth change of exposure, or if you use it as a photographer and you like the clickable aperture. It's also got a clickable custom button if whether or not you want to do like eye autofocus or something while you like hold on to the lens. And then at the same time, it's got an MF AF switch. I appreciate it because I shoot both photo and video. So if I really just want to choose my subject real quick, I don't have to dig into menus, I just click a switch. So in the name, the lens has a wider aperture at f1.4, which pretty much means that the lower the number, the bigger the aperture is, the bigger the iris is. It gives your image, your subject, that kind of shallow depth of field, that dreamy look. Now, if I only had that lens to walk around with all day, it wouldn't be such a bad thing. Although I do like to take more close-up photos, telephoto-like photos, the 24mm is also not a bad option, especially when you're traveling and you want to see like the great sights, be in the environment, kind of get that first-person view with a little bit more of a different look. I mean, just look at the photos that you take on your phone. Now just imagine that, like extra sharp, nice contrast, dreamy look. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I like this as a hobby. You just create beautiful images, or at least you pretty much steal God's beautiful images. As a videographer, if you're using the lens, it's nice because you can also use it handheld if you're using a Sony camera with in-body stabilization. The more medium focal range, like a 35, 50 and higher, you kind of get more micro jitters in your image when you're shooting video. But if you use a 24mm with a wider focal length, you're going to kind of take those micro jitters and make it less nauseating, make yourself less dizzy, and it's an overall better experience when you're shooting video. If you step up your stabilization game and fly the 24mm on a gimbal, it's nice, compact, light. You shouldn't have to worry about your camera holding the weight of a G Master lens. At least that one anyway. Cons, it's $1,300 plus. I mean, fortunately, I was able to find mine used for $1,100 on eBay. I just made sure that I had the return policy in place. Who would buy this kind of lens for $1,300? Well, I guess it's someone who really loves that focal length and probably wants to use only that focal length. Or maybe they're more experienced, or they just have the cash to spend on different kinds of lenses and they just have that as part of their kit. Although the 24mm lens is not the first lens I would wind up getting. I would rather get like a 35 or 55mm and then build from there. Like right now, I'm rocking a 35mm 1.8 Sony, and then I also got a Sony 85mm 1.8. For the price of the Sony G Master 24mm 1.4, I can get both 35mm and the 85mm used, and it's still in great condition. Do you need the 1.4? I mean, I would consider it a luxury at this point, especially as a hobbyist. It's nice to try, it's nice to rent, but before you pull the trigger on buying it, consider other lenses as well. If you get the 24mm f1.4, it won't disappoint. If you're interested in more camera gear content, then watch them over here. I'm Mike, reminding you to add life to what matters, and I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.